my mind. Things paranormal talks in the dark. Secrets buried leave a burning mark. We interview the dead, we debate the unknown. Chasing shadows where the seeds are sown. Fingers tapping on a Ouija board. Broken silence like a shattered chord. Eerie hums in the dead of night. Is it truth or just a trick of sight?
I forgot to put the thingy in again. I told you something was going to go wrong. I check myself every single time. Did I do everything? No, I didn't.
Nope.
Of course I didn't.
Still
Well,
shit.
hello, welcome. Welcome everybody to New Things Paranormal Talks. Tonight we have Paul Goddard. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Absolutely perfect, thank you.
Oh, thank God. How have you been?
Really good. Yeah, it's a bit more of a relaxed day today. Been enjoying the sun, so all good. So yeah, happy to talk about the past life regression world, reincarnation, and everything hypnotic.
Yeah, talking about that. Could you, like everybody else does in our program, introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Yeah, so my name's Paul Goddard, and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and I do reincarnation through. I do past life regressions with using hypnosis, and I'm just here looking forward to doing it. I've been sort of practicing since 2010 when I got my hypnotherapy certificate, and also as well I got NLP certificate as well. I started learning NLP in 2006, so I've been at this for quite a long time now.
That is a very long time. Very interesting. Um, is everything going all right, Mary, with the sharing out part?
Yeah, I shared out in 20 groups, but I
How
had to
many?
log in and the things not work. So
Okay.
it's in there as well. So you're practicing since 2010, if I heard correct.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so since 2010, I've been studying the hypnosis, and I got into it to help people get from a stuck state to a desired state. And from there, on the course that I did in hypnosis, I learned a bit of past life regression, and I always had an interest in reincarnation and past lives. But I kind of just, as I said, really got into this because I wanted to help people. But whilst I used to do paranormal investigations myself at one point, and when I was on one of these paranormal investigations, anybody who's been on paranormal investigations realizes that there's quite a lot of waiting around, not doing an awful lot at certain times during the evening. And instead of just waiting there for something to come out and say boo or what would ever happen, I asked the organizer of this particular event if I could practice my past life regressions, because I just got my certificate in 2010, and I kind of had a little audience watching me at the time. And then my good friend Lynn Sindri, she liked what I did, asked me to a couple of her events, asked me to do some talks. Then other people started to ask me to do some talks, and I think it was really, I was fairly known sort of quite locally, and I did do a few podcasts on people further afield, but I think it was during the COVID times that people will begin to ask me on their shows more. I was doing a lot of regressions with people, Jane Harris and a load of YouTubers, Facebookers, and that kind of then snowballed from there and got me known. So I'm really happy that I am known. Do talks on past lives and reincarnation, and I've been lucky enough to have a couple of TV slots as well. Sometimes very, very short, blink and you'll miss me, but it's a great deal of fun doing TV. So that's been great, using my hypnosis on TV as well.
That's so
Yeah,
good.
that is cool. Definitely.
Well, Shane,
What? What?
if you
Yeah. What
jump
happened?
paranormal,
I will. Whatever happened with the group when you went in? You started talking about it, and then I got very interested. What happened with the past life regression?
Oh, the past life regression. So they had past lives. My good friend actually volunteered herself. She was the last person to be volunteered, so it wasn't like I just picked one of my friends to do it. But Lynn, she was someone called Matilda, and she went from being very poor to being quite well off by marrying someone into money eventually. Someone else was a miner in their past life. And I'm trying to remember what the other one was. It was so long ago when I did these past lives. I have got a recording of them somewhere. And in fact, there's a little tiny clip on my Facebook going way back of two of the people, my friend Lynn and the person who said they were miners. So I have to relook over those. But I can see when I see those really early recordings that my style has changed, because we were in 2010, and I was trained incredibly well with hypnosis and past lives and the hypnotic world in general through my teacher Raymond Roberts. But when I watch myself, I'm kind of copying what Raymond did. You develop your own style as you go on. You read books, and you also have your own intuition, what you feel is the right way to go. So it is quite different for how I do the regressions now to how I did them then. But I must thank Raymond for putting the past lives into his hypnotherapy training, because a lot of the hypnotherapy training doesn't go down that route at all. And although a lot of hypnotherapists will do past life regressions, they tend to hide it because they think it might damage their career and people won't take them seriously. But personally, the circles that I move in, they're quite left field anyway. People are very open to the paranormal field. So I do also continue my other hypnotic work, helping people get into their desires that they want to be in. I'm also mostly known for my past life regression works these days, and I've got some fascinating past lives on my YouTube channel, Past Life Regressions with Paul Goddard. But most of them aren't seen because they're individuals, and some of these individuals do have some are less compelling, some are very compelling. A lot of these individuals, obviously, it's private. They don't want to even show it to their closest friends and family. Sometimes it's just something very personal for them. So I really enjoy doing it, and I always find it fascinating hearing other people's past life regression experiences that they go through.
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting. It always interested me as well, and I did have a past life regression and for past. And supposedly I was a redheaded serial killer
Okay.
woman on high heels. Well, it wasn't even serial. Yeah, it was serial killer because she was a hit woman. And long story short, but did you ever had your own?
Yes. So
past life?
when we do, because I've also as well had Raymond Roberts, but also I did extra training with Maria Wheatley, and she purely goes into the hypnotic world of reincarnation. She had training with Dolores Cannon, who's well respected in the field of regression therapy and hypnotic regression therapy. Maria, say in English, Maria Wheatley. She's a master dowser, second generation dowser. Her father was a master dowser, and she's written many books. She also does tarot cards and loads of other fascinating things. So I must give credit to Maria Wheatley. But whenever you do these trainings, you are always going into hypnosis yourself. You're experiencing different past lives. So some of the ones that I've done, like the first one I did with Maria, I went back to like the hunter-gatherer times, and I said my name was Ranuk in it, and it was quite a peaceful hunter-gatherer life. Another time I did one, I was a man called Tim, and I was in the Lake District. I was a carpenter, and if anybody asks me if I'm any good at doing carpentry work, no, I'm absolutely not. So it hasn't carried through from that life to this life. And another one I did was in 1960s Russia, and it was very sort of military. So that I do remember that military one, feeling the pressure at the time, that you had to get things right because of the pressure that was around at the time. So each life I had has kind of been a little bit different, and each person that comes to see me for past life regressions can be a little different as well.
Yeah, fully agree.
It's
Um,
interesting.
is it something you know beforehand how many past lives someone has?
Well, use hypnosis to take people through to a past life.
Yeah.
So I don't pick anything up psychically. Some people do, and some people do it that way. I just like to purely let somebody come up with the experience themselves, and I make sure I always guide someone and not lead, which is something that we can talk about, the difference between guiding and leading during a past life regression. But the method I personally like to use, although there's various different methods, and you're just talking about a method getting someone into their past life, is I take them to a corridor that their subconscious mind creates for them. And in this corridor, there are different doors leading off to either side, and each of those doors will be one of their past lives. So some can be just like 3 or 4. I've had people who just had one door before, and other people say that it just keeps going on, and they can't count how many lives that they've had. So it's different to the individual. If you listen to various different belief systems in reincarnation, some people say you have a set amount of lives you reincarnate before then you just go off into the afterlife. Other people say that it's until you've learned enough lessons, but I make sure that during the clients that I have, that I leave all that stuff behind and make sure that it comes from the clients within, what they feel is right for them in that regression.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I always had the question about what I just asked, if you could see that forehand, because I've never seen anybody actually do it, but I always had that question in the back of my head. So now finally I could ask the question. But it's
Did
a
you
very
have
clear answer.
did you have doors in your regression?
I cannot remember. It's been too long.
Okay.
The only thing I can vividly remember, it was a redhead, like Irish red, curly hair, long hair, and she had high heels on, which I cannot walk on because I will break my neck completely. Just like you being not being a carpenter right now.
Yes.
So no,
Yes, indeed.
that's the vivid memory I have, but the doors I cannot remember.
When I do a past life regression with someone, I always make sure that it's recorded. Occasionally, it can be just MP3s if people just request it, but I stick it on a video camera so that people can watch it back afterwards. I make sure that I mic the person up as well so that they have a good quality sound, because a lot of people, when they're hypnosis, they are very, very quiet, their voices. So I get a lapel mic which is close to them so they make sure that you can pick up what someone is saying. I do online regressions as well. Most of the time it works out fine, but sometimes I have to just play around a little bit with the position of their camera or phone to make sure I can properly hear it, because people can be very, very quiet when they talk. But that's important because I always think that it's important that someone can rewatch the regression, because if they can't rewatch it like yourself, the memories start to fade. And although I say during my regressions what you'll remember from this session you've had, you'll be able to remember it with crystal clear clarity, even then people can start to forget it. It's a little bit, I say, coming out of hypnosis and coming out of the memory of a past life is like when you're coming round from a dream. Unless you start piecing it together straight away, after time you can start losing the experience of what you had.
Yeah,
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah.
Mary, your turn, because I talk too much.
Well, I do have a little secret. I do have my hypnosis and regression papers as well, and I did past life regressions. I'm curious, which kind of guidance do you use to get them in the hypnotic state? Do you use the butterfly or just a small whatever?
Well, there's lots of different inductions, and the best way anybody's ever explained it to me before is like there are primary colors, and as long as you use those primary colors when you're doing an induction, you can induce hypnosis. I tend to take my time a bit putting someone into hypnosis, so that is a very slow, sometimes progressive relaxation, but you have to really watch someone when you're doing progressive relaxation, because if you do it too slowly and too you can actually send someone to sleep, particularly if they're in this recliner chair that I'm sat in, because it can recline. I also use Dave Ellman inductions. Dave Ellman was a very well-known and well-respected hypnotist and hypnotherapist, and he was known for his rapid induction, which is slightly different to an instant induction. I sometimes mix them up. There's another induction called Little Shelf, where by the time the hand drops down to their lap, they've put themselves in hypnosis. I tend to do that if someone is needing to go into hypnosis quite quickly. I will very, very occasionally use the instant shock induction, but that tends to be if I'm doing a demonstration and I have to be sure before I do a shock induction that the person I'm doing a shock induction with is okay with it. But I don't do it at home or when I'm with someone, the shock induction, because the last thing somebody wants to do when they're coming for therapy, because a lot of people use the past life regressions as therapy as well, that they're kind of frightened into hypnosis. But it works very well if you've got a limited amount of time. I choose the person that I think is going to enjoy having that instant just go in. It looks very dramatic. It's good doing that sort of induction if you're doing something like television work, because it looks dramatic and it looks very good for the TV, and that's what they're after. But you have to be aware, even when you do that it's done to be interesting to people rather than scratching your own ego, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. I saw it a few weeks back in a program, and this guy gave the other guy a hand, and he fetched his hand, went to his face, and he was gone. And I
Yeah.
told everyone, I'm never going to shake his hand. Never,
Right.
ever.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
this guy,
again,
yeah,
sorry, you carry on.
this guy was an ex CIA, and he was shouting, "Not yet, not yet, not you, not you." So that startled me.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
tend to find, even with those very instant inductions, you preparing the person before and that they will go instantly into hypnosis, and belief plays a very big part in hypnosis as well.
yeah. And do you agree there's a part, let's say a 10%, who isn't able to get hypnotized?
Personally, in my view, I mean, speak to 10 different hypnotists, hypnotherapists, you may well get 10 different answers. And it should always be what feels right as the hypnotist. And what I feel is right is every single person can be hypnotized, and every single person goes into that hypnotic state throughout their day anyway. So many people drive on what's called automatic pilot, where they drive to a certain destination on work, and then Saturday they're going to see some friends or family, and they find they're driving to go to work. In that state, they've gone into a hypnotic trance, so it's going on automatic pilot. When we get involved with films and watching them or reading a good book, we're so absorbed in it, we're in a state of hypnosis. And one great example, which I've seen plenty of times either at home or in the cinema, is if someone is watching a film, they've got their popcorn or their crisps or whatever it is, and they're really into the film, and they're putting their hand into the popcorn, lifting it up, and then halfway to their mouth, something particularly interesting happens in the film, and they're paused. They're in a what's called cataleptic state, where their muscles in their arms and whatever part of their body are evenly balanced. And somebody can stay like that for a good 5 minutes, watching the film with their muscles evenly balanced, and then the interesting bit over, or the intense bit is over, and then the person will continue eating their popcorn. People go into hypnotic states during those times because hypnosis happens when you draw your attention inwards, and at that time their whole focus is in the film and what is happening.
Now
Oh.
you have questions.
Yeah, there was a question. It had something nothing to do with the movie, or because it sounds logic to me, because it happens to me and I see myself doing it as well. But is there a time limit of putting somebody under hypnosis?
There's not really any time limit or time limit how long someone can take. I find There is slow progressive relaxation hypnosis. Uh, if you're going to take an hour or so, it can actually be so boring for the person that whoever's going to hypnosis might get fed up and bring themselves out of it anyway because you're taking too long. I'll say a progressive relaxation, the longest it needs to be is 15 minutes, and then you're taking a really long time to do a progressive relaxation. People, the amount of time they're in hypnosis can be different, but it's always important that when somebody comes to see me, sometimes if they've done regressions before hypnotically, or if they've been hypnotized before several times, I do ask, what is your favorite induction, or do you have one? Because it's nice to know that and give that back to them, because I know personally for myself, I like progressive relaxation, although a lot of people do find that too long. But I just get little sort of hints, with what someone says to me. So I'm more like to go for progressive relaxation. I'm talking to them, what do you like to do to relax? If they say, oh, I can't, I find it difficult to relax, I'll do something like a Dave Elman induction, which isn't instant, but it only takes about 3 minutes to get someone into hypnosis. If I'm having someone say, oh, I love watching a sunset on a hill, I could be there for hours, just relaxing, just sitting. I know that they'd probably be quite good at doing a longer induction. So you kind of fit it to each different person.
Yeah. Now I heard stories, of course, because I can't do hypnosis, but I heard a lot of stories that it could be very dangerous to put somebody under hypnosis. Is that true?
I always get people to sign a form beforehand, because hypnosis isn't dangerous. But if you've got someone who has a lot of mental health issues, and not just a few mental health issues, but a lot of them going on, it's best that they speak to their doctor beforehand, particularly if they're under a lot of medication. I always get people to just check with the doctors. So on the form B, if you have anything like clinical depression or epilepsy, always recommend speaking to your doctor beforehand. Now, most of the time, doctors say it's absolutely fine. And I have people who have signed the form who have had epilepsy, and there's never been a problem. But it's just nice to know, because some of the inductions I do what's called fractionation, where I'm putting someone in hypnosis, taking them out of hypnosis, putting them back in by getting them to open and close their eyes. Because of the fairly rapid opening and closing the eyes and the possibility of triggering epilepsy in someone, I won't do that. I certainly won't do a shock induction if anybody has epilepsy. I will do something like a more classic progressive relaxation, or one of Milton Erickson's favorites, who someone else I really like and admire, the hand levitation, where it's using imagination and suggestion to get someone into hypnosis. But you always hear those stories, particularly on the internet, that someone was a hypnotist and they went to them, never quite right again afterwards. But even stage hypnosis, which I don't do. Now, my trainer, Raymond Roberts, is also a stage hypnotist. And I learned stage hypnosis, never because I wanted to do it, but people used to ask me questions about stage hypnosis. So I thought, if I took a course in stage hypnosis, I will be able to, with authority, give my viewpoint on stage hypnosis rather than what I've read. Raymond does it very ethically throughout. You just have to know what you're doing to someone. I'm sort of careful for your audience, but I've seen stage hypnosis shows where someone is suggesting something very adults and that they might have been interfered with in some way. Now, you shouldn't do something like that in hypnosis, because when somebody's up there for fun, you have no idea what that person has been through in their life. And I didn't see it, but my tutor did see somebody suggest something like that on a stage show that he was watching, and this woman just screamed and screamed, and it was what's called an abreaction, where someone is experiencing emotions, usually an abreaction negatively, either through suggestion or remembering trauma. So hypnosis itself isn't dangerous. In fact, I think it's very good. And as I said before, the epilepsy, there's actually some research that says that it could be good if done in the right way. It's just when someone is in hypnosis, you just have to be aware of what to say to someone, as with that lady as well. And also, I wouldn't say hypnosis is dangerous, but it hasn't happened to me for a very long time. But I used to get people phoning me up at one point, or sending me emails or texting me saying that they want to be hypnotized to remember something to go into a court case. The thing is, there is the possibility of false memory. It's not a truth drug, hypnosis. It can uncover memories. It's very successful at
Yeah.
uncovering memories, but also as well, you have to be careful, because sometimes it could be that someone just wants to prove a point, even though it hadn't happened, and they create in their imagination something that's happened. So the hypnosis itself is very fine, but you just have to be careful and know what you're doing once one's in. If you just put someone in hypnosis just for relaxation and brought them out again, absolutely fine. But in my view, you can't get anyone to do anything that they wouldn't do anyway.
All right.
Exactly.
So someone,
Oh.
so someone say is a stage hypnosis show. The person who puts their hand up is quite an extrovert type person. They probably will dance around with a lampshade up their head at a party anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Sounds logic.
and pick a broom and play air guitar on it. That kind
Exactly.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Or forgetting the number 5, or eating a lemon like it's an orange or an apple. But that's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the sort of things that Raymond used to do. And as we're sort of talking about an air guitar, when they do something like, when you hear this music, you think that you are a rock star and you're playing your imaginary air guitar. It's important that you say your imaginary air guitar, because you're again using imagination for people to use their imagination. If you just say you'll have a guitar in your hand and you're a rock star, people may come out of the hypnosis and go, I haven't got a guitar in my hand, because they literally think they're going to have a guitar in their hand. But you're allowing someone to get into that imaginary field, and when they go into their imaginary field, they're going deeper and deeper into the hypnosis and deeper and deeper into suggestions.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is fun to see. I
Yeah,
never
Remind me to
absolutely.
put it on my bucket list. I want to be hypnotized once.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We have Rasta Rostali here. Oh my God. Has anyone ever contacted you with a question? There are things which happened in my life. Can you help me forget them?
I have had that. It depends what the upset is. You can certainly reprogram the mind very easily, but if it's something like a true trauma, I recommend, because I've helped deal with people with minor traumas, but if they had an incredibly horrible, say, abusive childhood from the age that they can remember till about sort of 14 years old, and they want to forget that, I recommend seeing someone like a psychotherapist, or someone who's certainly been trained in that field, because you can open a whole can of worms. But yeah, that's what I would say, because although I'm very pleased of what I've able to help people out with mild to moderate depression, if it's really severe, then I recommend somebody who really has been sort of got the doctor label on as well, because it's only fair to recognize when you need to pass a potential case over to someone who's got the big tools.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, me
Totally.
too. Do you still do paranormal investigations?
Last time I did a paranormal investigation, it was East Drive in Pontefract, 30 East Drive in Pontefract. A few things happened, interesting. I don't do them so much now. I loved doing them, and occasionally an opportunity will come up, and if it's a really good opportunity that's too good to miss, I'm not going to, not do it. But I started doing the paranormal investigations in 2020, around that sort of time. It was maybe a bit later. It was kind of around the time when the paranormal programs were getting really popular on TV. You had Most Haunted, you had the Ghost Detectives, and a few other programs that were about at the time. And then it was free to go and do an investigation. And the people that were working at these venues go, oh, I'd love to know what's happening, do come along. If you get anything, we have copies of the footage, so that's what we would do for people, and they'll be really interested. Now, and I don't blame, because particularly here in the UK, and I think so many other places around the world, it is increasingly difficult for the hospitality industry, so they have to make money. But now you're sort of talking to do a paranormal investigation anywhere, £60 each to do it. And as much as I love doing it, I've managed to actually pick up a lot of evidence myself, plenty of EVPs, some strange anomalies appearing on camera, some strange noises. I've seen a potential ghost at a location. Unfortunately, it was just right when packing up, and I saw a lady walk through a brick wall, which I didn't realize was a brick wall at the time. It actually was a doorway which led through to the other building next door. We were in the age concern shop, and it led at the time to estate agents. She released the catch off a fire door and then went down the end of a corridor where it was all locked and padlocked anyway. And I remember looking at it thinking that was very odd. And first of all, I converted it to reality. So I thought it was someone just locking up. And I thought, it can't be. We've been given the keys. That's all blocked off to next door. So what I saw wasn't captured, but it lasted a few seconds. So for me, it was very genuine. So I feel I've picked up enough things on camera, on dictaphone, to say there is something strange happening. And I do believe, but I'm one of those believers that like to check everything off rather than just any little knock or bang is something. I think that's very important. But now, because I've picked up enough, there's lots of really good teams out there. But because it's about £60 per person, I tend to myself be more, I enjoy going to a haunted pub, having a decent meal and chatting to the staff about their experiences, and then going home after having just a couple of drinks and a nice meal. And for me, that is the paranormal which I love doing, if it's not my past life regression side of things.
Yeah, understandably. Yeah, it's people making it hard to do, especially for these hobbies, because it's very expensive already with buying the cameras, the dictaphones, you name it. It's pretty expensive, but if you have to pay for buildings to go into,
Yes,
it's getting
absolutely.
harder and harder. I know they have to
Exactly.
preserve the buildings, but
Yeah. And I
good
totally
rate.
understand if it's an old building as well and the roof is leaking, you have to
Yeah,
make sure that you look after your priorities, but also as well, you're in a cold building. I remember doing Woodchester Mansion, which is a great place to do. I picked up a scream. We all heard it. We all, it would have been brilliant for TV because we all lost it at that point, and the cameras flying around everywhere, and we were all crying out. Quite funny. It's the Woodchester Mansion scream, which is on one of my YouTube channels. But I remember the very first time I went, I had a real heavy cold, paid a lot of money out for it, and I spent the entire investigation next to the fire, keeping warm, drinking coffee, which, it was a very nice fire. But I was thinking I could be doing this at home next to my own fire. But it is a great investigation to do, and it is a great place to visit, Woodchester Mansion, which I'm lucky to have very close. So I don't know if you know much about Woodchester Mansion at all.
I heard about it, and I heard it's very haunted.
Yeah, it is haunted. So it's William Lee who built it, and before there used to be a house on site by the Juices, and it's a half finished building. It's a Gothic style mansion. It's only half complete. Only one room was ever completed. So it's a great, fascinating building to go if you're interested in architecture, because you get to see the building as it used to be, but and what it would be like building it. So it's not a ruin, it's a constructed, half constructed building, so you get to see bits you wouldn't usually get to see of a building. They do
Yeah.
paranormal investigations, but it's also worth just going during when they're open. I think they're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the grounds around it are fantastic as well, but very, very haunted. I picked up that scream, which really did set everybody off, which was quite amusing to see and watch back. But a lot of people I know that have done the investigations several times, they've had stones thrown at them, so they've actually come towards them. So it's not just the masonry falling down, they've actually had stones coming towards them.
Wow.
And I remember talking to someone I used to go to work with, and he used to do dowsing. He wasn't a paranormal investigator, but he went and looked around the grounds, and he said he found this little hut somewhere, and there were little crosses scratched all into the wall, which would have been, I don't know where it is. After, if I ever meet up with him, I have to ask where this was, but he said this would have been back the time when the American soldiers were based there. So he said he reckons something must have really frightened them in that space anyway. But the reason why it's half constructed is there's two theories behind it. One, that it was too expensive to continue building and too expensive to pull down, so it just remained there. The other one is that there were a few murders on the site and the people panicked and left, which most of the time you think kind of logically, well, the more logical one is that it was too expensive to pull down or too expensive to carry on building. But they have all the tools that related to the workmen in Woodchester Mansion still there in a special area. So back then, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to go to the local hardware store and I'm going to pick up some new tools. These tools back then were the workman's livelihood. So something must have really got to them to just down tools and leave them there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then there should be a third possibility. It was so haunted already before they started building, the builders ran off.
Yes, exactly. And it might have even been the house beforehand that was haunted, which would belong to the producers. So it was built exactly on the same area. So perhaps that area is haunted, and that's what's being picked up in that particular building.
If you ever would, if you would ever do an investigation again, because the possibility is there a way to use regression therapy or hypnotherapy during an investigation?
Well, yes, there is. I mean, the first time I was on Help My House is Haunted, I hypnotized Barry Guy to have a look round the house, which was a converted Methodist chapel in 1825. I took Barry back to, so using his mind to see the building as it once was, and he was walking around the place blindfolded. I've done that experiment with several other people in other locations, but when I do this, someone's called me in to do something with a group of people because there's an arranged paranormal group. So I get everybody to be seated because Barry was just one person, and also as well he waived all responsibility, and like the producer, if any problems, it was his responsibility. Whereas myself, I didn't want to have like about sort of 30 odd people all milling around with their eyes shut, banging into things. I thought you could have problems, somebody could go tumbling down the stairs at that point. So I keep people seated. But it's interesting. People tend to tap into something quite similar. It's very difficult at that time because your group setting. And if I had longer, I'd probably say everybody write something down and then say, so you maybe getting all the same things because people are influencing each other as they're talking and misremembering. But it's a fascinating experiment to do. So there's that, taking people back to place memories. And there's a lot more. There's a few other experiments that I've done. I've also, my good friend Kate Ray, she explores like fae folk stories and is very much into the fairies and things. And I've done various regressions with her and other people that have experienced some quite strange little creatures. So I'm completely open to everything. I really am with that. And there's more experiments. There's something which I'm hoping to will be on YouTube soon, but until that's actually out, in case I'm not supposed to talk about it, I'll keep that bit under wraps.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the question: is there something you really, really, really would like to do if it comes to regression or hypnotherapy, like experimental wise?
Well, I love all experiments, but my absolute passion is the reincarnation. And I think it rekindled because, as I said, I got into hypnosis to help people, but I was always fascinated with the reincarnation stories because we used to have a fantastic program over here called Strange But True. It was narrated by Michael Aspel, and it wouldn't just be ghosts. It would be near-death experiences. It would be faith healers. It would be cryptids, panthers. It went through a whole load of different things, UFOs, abductions. And it also tapped into past life regression memories. So what I'd really like to do, because apart from a few regressions, like I've hypnotized Steve Mulligan that was a very compelling one. If you actually look Steve Mulligan past life, you'll find it on the internet, because that one hit some of the newspapers. He was a fighter pilot in World War II called Sidney Sutcliffe. I sent in a press release because it was such a good, compelling one, and it is my fault in that press release because I said he was a flight lieutenant. If you watch the regression, which is on my YouTube channel, and also on the Paradox Club, which is the group that Steve Mulligan is part of, he never actually says at any point that he was a flight lieutenant. He always says, I'm a lieutenant in the flying corps. So that kind of matches, because the flight lieutenant in World War One wasn't, they didn't say it. It was just part of the army, basically. So it wasn't mentioned as a flight lieutenant. That was really good and really compelling. We were hoping, because the reason it went into the newspapers to begin with, we were hoping to see if there was extra bits of information that wasn't written down in records, because a lot of it matched up. But Steve said things during his regression, that he used to sometimes go on stage with his father, Arthur Sutcliffe. And it is actually correct that Arthur Sutcliffe was an entertainer. So Sidney would have known about that, obviously, from his life. But Steve Mulligan said during the past life regression that he sometimes would go up. That's not in the records. He said during the regression that his mum sometimes went up on stage with him. That's not in the records. Steve mentions about his sisters and family life, and that they used to put on glove puppet shows for the family to watch. That's not in the records. If you see pictures of Arthur Sutcliffe that are available, he doesn't have a moustache, but Steve Mulligan said at certain points during the regression that he had a go at, Arthur had a go at having a moustache for a while, and that the family used to laugh because bits of food and bits of tea used to get stuck on his moustache. You can't find any pictures with him having a moustache, so that's what we were hoping for. We're hoping that if we actually have the family, because obviously you're the family, and when you're on stage, not every single moment of your life is going to be put out there. So we wanted to see if there were any people alive today that could say yes to that. We couldn't, unfortunately. And there's been other regressions as well that have been very compelling, very similar to that. But I would love to, what I'd like to do is really team up, because it'd be a lot of effort, with someone who is an historian, and really do some experimental past life regressions and see if everything matches up. Now, a lot of people will say to me, oh, I found this, and it's matched up. And they found stuff on Google, but it's like certain parts match up to it. It'd be great to know if all those little extra details that a historian would know, that they could find those extra details as well. Now, I do know a few historians, so I'll have to speak to them, but I also know they're incredibly busy people as well, because I've tried to do my research as well. I tried to do research into the regressions of Psychic Beth. She was actually involved in a television program called The Pet Psychic, because she talked to pets. That was a fantastic, very interesting program. I did a regression on her, and she had a really compelling past life where she was catching different trains and trams to get back home after she escaped from the fishing fleet that she was with, because basically the boats were too dangerous. And definitely all the tram system matched up, but I couldn't find anything about this particular person's life. And I tried my best over the internet, and I had a massive headache by the end of it. So it just left me with such a admiration for people that are historians. So that's what I would really like to do, is really see what, because I'm also interested, I'm not that brilliant at history, but I'm also really fascinated with history. So I'd like to see what people say matches up with the regressions. But if anybody else has any other ideas, I'm always happy to experiment, because I do find the whole concept and the whole process of hypnosis and hypnotherapy deeply interesting. But I just like to, instead of doing, and I'm not knocking stage hypnosis because it's very funny, but what I really like doing is doing something that's either going to be incredibly interesting for the person, or lift the person up and boost their self-esteem. That is what really is my driving force.
Cool.
That's so cool. We had a program here, and going back to the past life, and they brought people in regression, and they looked after everything where this person was born, his job, his family, if he remembered when he died. And in 4 cases, most things add up, even marked his own grave.
Mm.
So it is interesting.
Yes, and I'm also really interested in the children, and this is something that I go into my talks. The children that remember potential past lives when they're just beginning to talk. There are people that get extremely excited, and I remember there was one child that when he was taught about Gone with the Wind, the film, he said that he was like this screenwriter of that. Oh, did you like my movie? He would say. Um, there's a lady, Barbara Carlin, who claimed to be Anne Frank in her past life. And people do say, well, Anne Frank is such a well-known story, but Barbara was from Sweden. She was talking about Anne Frank before the Anne Frank story was in her language. So again, that is a good, compelling story as well. And Dorothy Eady, another person that I talk about, she had an accident where she fell down some steps, and the doctor thought that she actually had died. So he went off to get a death certificate. Unfortunately, she was only slightly dead and made a full recovery. So she was only knocked out. She wasn't actually really dead, but she made a full recovery from that. But after that, her attitude changed, and she, when she was in the British Museum, she started seeing the Egyptian artifacts and became incredibly interested. And she was like saying, this is my home, these are my people. And she was such a help because of the knowledge that she had. She was actually helping out some of the archaeologists. So there's countless stories like that as well, from children and even sometimes adults experience what are called spontaneous past life claims. And I do really like, and I mention them an awful lot, but Dr. Ian Stevenson, the man who went around the world investigating children with past life claims, and he had some regressions, that some past life experiences that the children were talking about. Some of them compelling, some less compelling, but he had on file, a good amount of cases that he said it's difficult to explain what's going on in any other realm, except if you're going to take on that is actually reincarnation. So he was kind of like, I would say, open-minded. I'm not entirely sure if he was skeptical or believing, but he certainly, as someone who was a scientist and looked into psychology, he was someone who really did look into this subject seriously. And I wish more people in the scientific community would do that. Some do, and there are some great people like Rupert Sheldrake and everything, but I would just wish more people would.
Yeah.
Yeah, understandably. Have you ever did past life regressions with children?
I haven't. Some make good subjects. I have taken some children, but it depends on the child. Some are really good at following instructions and using imagination. I tend to get into what a child is into. Most of the children that come to see me, it's if they're particularly shy at school or fussy eaters, and I'll try and use what they're into. So if it's football, use a metaphor during football that can help them from where they are, so they become engaged and interested. I don't usually put people into hypnosis so much in the classic eyes closed, but Milton Erickson storytelling. But then I've also had other children where I've kind of said, I'm not sure if this is really the best thing for them, because they're more fascinating with pulling my books off the shelves and making a mess in the place. So that can be a bit worrying at times.
Yeah, I can understand. That really does not help.
Yeah.
Barry, you have a question.
Do I have a question?
Yeah,
Tons of
you are always full of questions.
yeah, tons of it, but I have to translate in my head. Uh, now I remember. You have that Dorothy. who remembers Egypt,
Yes.
and she spoke Egyptian, but
Yes.
the old language, and she could read the writings. Have you ever had a regression where someone spoke a different language?
I haven't. No. I mean, I've had it, which is a real shame, but I've had it where people hear the language in their head and they got understanding what they're doing. And this is a bit like when I had my Russian experience, but that you hear it, but it's like you've got a TV on that's a Russian channel or a French channel, and you're trying to pick up what's being said and say what you're hearing, but because you don't know the language, you're going to get it completely wrong. That's what it's sort of been like for me. So I haven't, but it has happened with other hypnotherapists. So I think it's probably one of those things that it does happen. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah. And in your past life regressions, um, how far back went people?
Well, it depends if they want to experience a particular life that they feel that they've been to. And again, I'm very cautious to guide, not lead someone. So I go around it as best as I can with something like that. If they've had dreams of, say, Edwardian times as they were growing up and just had very vivid dreams about Edwardian times, sometimes we want to go exactly to that past life. If it's for therapy, I ask them to go to the live or lives which are going to be helpful. Uh, but sometimes people go way, way back to very early times. As I said, I had a hunter-gatherer one, so back to that time. So it's quite random. I'd say most of them are from the, particularly privately, 1400s onwards is kind of, usually don't get, it's often 1600s, but 1400s I say also is quite common, 1500s. But I don't quite get so many people say going back to 800 AD or anything like that. That tends not happen, but it does happen occasionally. And one of those ones is Charlene. She went back to being a Viking, and that's a good compelling one. Not so much of what she said, although it was absolutely fascinating, but she was on a boat to find new life, like a Viking ship, and was caught in a storm. And you can always tell most of the time when people they've reached the end of their lives, because I like to just keep moving forward and sort of say, now move, so many years forward, or move to you being 80 or what have you. And then when the life has stopped, they usually say at that point, nothing, I can't see anything, or dark, or they're not getting anything. And Charlene was on the boat, it was quite peaceful. And I said, oh, just move forward, a week from now. I think that's a week, or so much, not far, too far in the distance. And she said, I saw nothing. So then you know that you can take them to their last hour. And there was very rough sea. Her child went overboard, and she's someone, I know Charlene a little bit, not at the time, but I know Charlene a little bit more now. And she's not a very emotional person, but the tears really started to flow. You could hear in her voice, and that's happened sometimes when people come to see me, that they're really deeply feeling something. So I make sure that I don't make it too traumatic. So I allow them to go back to a time when they were safe, and then tell them that they can experience what emotions they're comfortable in experiencing. And the reason I say that, instead of taking all the negative feelings away, is because some people say, well, I actually, when spoken to me afterwards, they want to experience all the stress and emotions and have a good cry. I mean, each to your own. I'd rather not experience that if it was me. But, when she was fine, and I took away some of the uncomfortable feelings for her, and she went through and had the death experience. But at one point you could tell that if I hadn't stepped in, then she would have gone truly through to an abreaction, which was that emotions welling up through suggestion or remembering. So it was quite compelling that she got that upset. And as I say, it's happened to people when they come to see me, and why they would do it if they're just making anything up, or it was so convincing. Charlene would have to be, an Oscar-winning actress to pull such deceit off. But I fully know and trust Charlene, that I know she wouldn't do that, and it was genuine emotion she was experiencing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Noreen also says, I know Charlene very well and can vouch for her. That was an amazing regression.
Oh, thank you.
Has there ever been a case where you did a past life regression and the person that did the regression is living almost the same life as she or he did in the past life?
There can be similarities, definitely. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. What is interesting is that if someone hasn't learned something, then that can come up. No, I personally don't go down the school of you're being punished. I don't personally believe that, unless somebody comes up with that in hypnosis, which hasn't come up yet, because I think it's not very empowering for someone to think that all their problems are because they were bad in a past life, and I would never ever suggest that. But I know people are affected by their past, like people who have drowned. I had somebody on the Titanic. Again, it's a famous story, but if you actually look up the amount of people actually drowned on the Titanic, it is a staggering number. And she was serving in engine room 3. The name date John Smith came up, but it was Smith with a Y, which I didn't ask that question. But her last experience was her drowning, being this person in engine room 3, trying to get out, couldn't get out. But after experiencing herself drown as someone else, it released the emotions, and she was able to enjoy water a lot more. She found going in the shower much more comfortable, and would absolutely hate having to wash her hair, and she would just prefer the water going on the chest, but she was able to go fully under the water after having that. You've had people who've made bad decisions and have lost a child, and then that's why they're overprotective to their children later on. So you get that. People have been misers in a past life, that because they were a miser in their past life, then they're just spending all the money then afterwards. So that kind of matches up. So to answer your question, yes, sometimes it's very similar. Other times it's quite a different life, like your regression that you had.
Yeah. Yeah, I may sure hope so.
Yeah.
Or else I gotta have a problem.
And now I see
And I
what
cannot walk on high heels, so it will never
Yeah.
happen
I
again.
learn. We practice, I will learn you.
I've not even tried, so I wouldn't have no idea how I get on.
No,
I know I
I'm
can't
not
do
gonna.
skates.
I'm not gonna try.
No,
No,
I know I can't do skating, on ice. That was I was having difficulty standing on the things, even just not being on the ice. So yeah, I think I wouldn't get on with heels.
no, me neither. I will break something. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
what it is, but I will break something.
Yeah, best not then.
Too many things coming at once.
Yeah.
Noreen says, I enjoyed Amy's regression. Also, Amy and I had a weird connection during her regression, and I picked up something during her regression. No idea what it is about, but I think you know.
Yeah, you must admit, I'm just. I think I know the one that I mean. 'Cause I think it's an Amy that I did live. But yes, I remember that one. Yeah, that was a good one. I'm trying to remember what it is now, because I do have them on my YouTube channel. Some of them I certainly go back to over and over again, particularly for my talks, because they're incredibly compelling ones, or have something that is good as a point to mention to people, why I said certain things during the regression. But also as well, I get this, it's not just my YouTube, I do this a lot of the time anyway. So they can get a little blurred in one memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's really a lot to remember.
Yes, it is. But I will remember that Amy's one was good, and that it was good for Amy at the time as well. So I will go back in the next day or two and rewatch that one, because it's good to rewatch. And again, even as time goes by, when I've done that one, I can see how my style has changed a little bit, because I think with most things in life, you don't want to just do it the same way. You always have different ideas and just slightly adapt as well.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
heard you say I heard you say you're doing it live. Do you do that often?
I haven't done. I don't have done. Well, I did one this year actually for Parameet Online World. So I had like a Parameet World thing, and that's on my YouTube channel. So I did one this year. I'm going to start doing more again. I just had an incredibly personal, busy start to the year, so I haven't done any lives, and it's a shame, because it was always something that I really look forward to. And what I do enjoy about doing a live is that you get people ask questions. So, like you've got up in the corner here, I have the questions appearing, and I can ask certain questions if I think it's a good one. But I'm more happy now to ignore it if it's not a good question. Well, it is a good question, but not right for the time, because I remember, and it was a wonderful YouTube channel I was on, and I was hypnotized. I was invited as a guest to hypnotize Richard Felix, the well-known historian from Derby Jail, and he's really well-known, a good guy, and I hypnotized him. Now, it did take him quite some time to get into the regression, but once he was in there, he was fully in, and he was talking, which I like to hear. I'm doing this. I'm feeling cold, so he was feeling even sensations. But then someone asked the question. Now, he was someone who was like a guard, a coach driver. He kind of felt like he was acting like a guard to people, and have like a blunderbuss, and would practice firing things when he wasn't working. And somebody asked him, because he got the name and date, who was on the throne. And I don't usually ask that for the common person, because the common person would probably just know the king. A lot of common people at the time, way in the past, just wouldn't know. Richard Felix would know, so probably because he would know anyway, would not question asked. But the question came up at the bottom of the screen, because it was on there for some time. I thought, and it wasn't going away, I thought I'd better ask against my better judgment. Excuse me. So I asked Richard Felix who's on the throne, and he immediately said, I know, but he wouldn't know. And then that jerked him out of the hypnosis enough, so he was kind of more vague in his descriptions. So unless you're actually particularly serving and are part of the royal household, or very close to the king, or do something in the king's army, I tend to not ask those questions, because I am very aware that, particularly if someone has a lot of knowledge, like Richard Felix, who is an historian, if you say something that the person that they are in aggression might not know, it's enough to jerk people out. So there's always something to learn during these regressions. So that was a learning thing for me. So if I do a live on anybody else's channel, then say do get the questions up, but I might not ask all of them for very specific reasons, and give this reason that I've just given to you right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes sense.
I see the ghost lady. Paul, please tell them about me as Matilda.
Yes. So I was talking about the Matilda story. In fact, it's always good for Lynn to say, but she always sort of says when she tells people, this was the one that I did at the experience on the ghost hunting, that she sold, before she then married someone with money, she sold fruit in the day and her body at night, and that's what she tells people.
Oh, that's a good story to tell. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a good regression.
Oh yeah.
I have to keep up the full
definitely.
version at some point if I can dig it out.
Yeah.
Probably. Noreen says, I've watched many of Paul's regressions and they have all been interesting. The only problem is Paul's voice is so relaxing during the regression. I have to keep moving so I don't drift off.
Yes, that is very true. People do say that. And sometimes I'm seeing the comments go up and people put in like little Zs and sleepy faces, and I have to when I'm inducing the hypnosis with someone is not look at the comments, because sometimes it can make me smile. So yeah, I have been told that is nice to know that I send people off to sleep in a good way. And that's why whenever you have hypnosis on TV, they won't show the induction, particularly if you're doing a traditional progressive relaxation induction, because you don't want to send someone falling asleep if they're, say, watching TV or listening to TV when they're chopping vegetables,
Yeah.
or they're, I mean, nowadays you can get people who might have the mobile phone and play it in the car, and that really isn't a good thing to do, because you don't want to send somebody to sleep whilst they're driving. So just in case someone's operating any machinery, that's why when you see a hypnosis program, the induction's taken off, just because you don't want to send anybody to sleep at an inappropriate moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I
had a
can see the
TV
news.
ad.
Hmm.
Do
Yeah.
you remember, Shane?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and there was this program, and there was this guy trying to get someone in hypnosis, and he was standing in front of a big window naked in hypnosis. Yeah, so that was the ad, and you had to call for an insurance company to get him out.
I've not seen this one. I've not seen this advert.
I'm going to look for it and send it
Oh,
over.
all
Yeah,
right, thank you.
yeah, it's fun.
It's funny. It's very funny. It
Yeah,
was. Uh, I think he knows, Noreen, that it was a compliment.
Yes,
It's
yeah, I
not
do.
because of
Yeah.
boredom.
No, I do realize, and I do take it as a compliment. So yeah, I remember doing an event once, and the people at it said, "Can you read us a story before going to bed?" So yeah, I didn't know. I need to get home, but yeah, I took the compliment.
Yeah, good. Um, I'm all out of questions. I don't know about you, Mary.
um, you did also do NLP,
Yes.
um, neuro linguistic uh, practicing.
Yeah, so neuro linguistic programming is the term.
Yeah, exactly. And in what way do you use it? During the hypnosis, or just the therapy sessions?
Mostly in the therapy sessions, but it's useful in hypnosis as well, particularly as we're taught in neurolinguistic programming. So for those watching that don't know what that means, because NLP, neurolinguistic programming, is both an art and a science. 50% of it is down to the teaching, and the other 50% is your artistic interpretation. And one of the things that aren't said, at least in the course I've been, what NLP, neurolinguistic, stands for. So this is my interpretation of it. So you've got neuro, which is not just your brain, but your whole neurological system. Linguistics, the language that you use just to yourself and others. We also run programs in our mind to make it easier to communicate with the world. But if you don't like that system that's running like a computer, you can reprogram yourself through neural linguistic programming. So that is my interpretation of it. I find it useful during the regressions, because I make sure I tell people that most people are visual. That's the majority of people out in the world, and that what they will experience is probably visions. But some people also kind of set it, which is what I am. So during a regression, although I do see as well, I feel a lot more. That's my sense that I use. And some people are hearing and they hear. You've also got taste and smell, which can come in as well. But it's also good for communication with people anyway. Now, I will only ever use it in circumstances where I've got to up the communication because someone's not understanding, or to make sure that we're on the same wavelength, because each person has a different model of the world and a different way of looking at the world. And sometimes it's these programs that we run, like meta programs. For example, if somebody kind of came up to me and say, "Can you show me some ways of doing this?" they're like an options person, so they have the different ways that they like to learn something. If somebody's a procedures person, they want to know the way. So if you go and speak to them and you're showing them 10 different ways of doing one thing, then you're going to confuse them. So you're just aware of what words people say. A classic example is that somebody's more auditory. They'll probably say something like, I can hear what you're saying rather than I see what you mean. So we tend to also speak in the sense that we're most drawn to. But it's a ballpark figure, particularly when you're using like sensory language, is that sometimes people just pick up what other people are saying, because I've been in hotels where the whole staff kept saying, "You're welcome," or "No problem." So sometimes people are just picking up sayings from other people as well. So there's a whole thing of the communication which is very useful. But if anybody is friends with me, I just switch that off and I'm just friends. And it will be to help the communication grow rather than any sort of manipulation, because I'm not a fan of manipulating anybody.
I had to use it in my job.
Did you enjoy it?
No,
Oh,
I like to ask people, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? Because that's me. I'm the friendly one and not manipulating people to doing stuff what they normally wouldn't do. So,
yeah.
mm,
I mean, some people say it's persuasion rather than rather than
yeah,
manipulating. But I think that whatever you do must be a win-win.
yeah,
And an example where I think it works incredibly well in business: if somebody wants to get a car and their goal is that they want a comfortable ride that is going to be smooth, you listen to that person and you think, I like this person, I want to help this person, and then you start talking about a smooth, comfortable car that they can travel in, rather than it does 0 to 60 in so much. I will use the matching and mirroring process with people because it helps put people at their ease, but it's to help put people at their ease rather than me using that persuasion. Because you must realize as well, when people come to me, they're in a nervous state, so I'll do whatever I can to put someone at their ease. But I think the more best thing to do, rather than all the hypnosis or the NLP, is put someone at their ease, is just understand that when somebody comes to you, sometimes they feel silly because they've got lack of confidence, they've got OCD, they've got fear of rejection. Is that because I became interested in the NLP side of things, is because there's also my dad's story, because he passed away and was listening to a lot of hypnosis that helped him. That really triggered me to get into the field of NLP and hypnosis. But also as well, I had low self-esteem and I felt shy in certain circumstances. Not all circumstances, because it's context specific. I actually quite enjoyed doing any stage and talking to people and doing logic problems in front of the class, because my teacher used to allow me to do that, like the kind of very interesting logic problem puzzles and things like that. So my teacher was very good at encouraging me, because I went to a Rudolf Steiner school, but I used it to help move myself forward. And every day through my life I'm applying it, and then something will happen in life that I think I've not dealt with that before, so then you have to then pull on everything that you've learned to help move yourself forward. So we're growing, we're moving forward all the time. And I always say to people, it's good to do little small NLP tools and techniques regularly. And the ideal time to do them is when you need them and when you don't need them. And what I like to say to people as well, you never think, well, I've cleaned my teeth for so many years, now I don't need to clean it anymore. If you stop cleaning your teeth and you're having sugar, you're going to have problems and tooth decay. So you need to clean your teeth. You don't ever think, well, I've done it for so many years, I don't need to anymore. So it's constantly applying. And I'm a great believer in repetition, repetition, repetition. Keep it going, the work.
yeah, yeah. And by studying it, you help others, but also yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've heard it all before. And it's what I like to say to so many people is, if you're in a plane and you need to put the oxygen mask on, you put your own mask on first. You don't help anybody out, even though you really want to help your nearest and dearest next to you. you get your own mask on first. And when you can breathe properly in your own mask, then you can help people out better than if you were struggling to breathe and trying to help other people first.
Yeah,
Yeah, agreed.
100%.
Hmm.
Well, now I'm out of questions.
Well, we
Now,
are
for now.
nearing the end of the show,
Yeah,
anyways.
so we did
But
great.
there's only one question left then, and that is if people would like to follow you, Paul, where can they do that?
So if you want to see my past life regressions, you can go to Past Life Regressions with Paul Goddard. I'm on Instagram, Paul Goddard PLR. I'm on Past Life Regressions, Paul Goddard on Facebook. Mostly I'm going to be doing more now. I'm on the Facebook, the YouTube side of things. That's where I like to upload to. But you can also go on my websites, paulgoddardnlp.co.uk. So that's paulgoddardnlp.co.uk, and there'll be links that people want to contact me directly, to phone or to send an email, and I'll do my very best to get back to everybody ASAP.
Wonderful. You have your mic off.
Yeah, I saw it. See, something has to happen again. End of the show. I will, of course, share every link when I find every link. When it comes out on YouTube again and when it comes on Spotify, so everybody can click the link and follow you. And we want to thank you so much for coming on our show.
You're welcome, and thank you for asking me as well.
Yeah,
The,
it
the
was a
honor was
pleasure.
ours. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was very interesting to learn more about past regression as of hypnotizing and NLP. Had to think about that.
Okay.
It very interesting, and I hope we can do it again sometimes.
Yeah, I'd like to. It was nice. I really enjoyed it. It was good, and some nice, slightly unusual questions as well, which I always like.
That's always a good thing. We try to do that, but
yeah,
that's what we do when going with the flow. Questions just
Absolutely.
pop in.
yeah.
So, anyways, like always, I want to thank everybody for watching and interacting with us, which was a lot of people. That's good, because now a lot of people start watching. That's good. You have to come more often so we get watchers.
Now I feel
And no, I'm kidding. We get more watchers any times, but I just like it when people start interacting with us.
yeah.
Thank you so much for watching and listening. And as always, we will end with a little bit of music. So I will click everybody in the background, and we will see you in 2 weeks because I am on a holiday.
Yeah.
So everybody, thank you so much, and see you later.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Voices from the cracks in the floor. Shadows bending where light won't go. Chasing truth in a haunted show. Are they real or something more? Psychic dreams or skeptics grin. Ghosts of questions circling within. Answers vanish before they land. Investigators with their tools in hand, talking to the dark like it understands. Spirits rising from the sand.